Let's say you want to get the user's country because your bot will only support users in certain countries, and your bot can ask the user what country they're in, and then when they respond, then you can actually tag the user and then give them a personalized experience. So if their country supported, then you can tag them supported user and give them one message. And then if they're unsupported, then you can give them a different message. So what you'll want to do first is just ask them a question: where are they located? What country are you based in? And then you'll need to capture a response from the user and get a value out of that message. And so the easiest way to do that is to use Dialogflow and to use an entity. So an entity is going to store a list of values. So I've created an entity here called supported country, and I just add a list of countries that we support. And you can add synonyms too. So, if the United States is a country that we support, then, you can add different ways that users might express the United States. And you can just, the United States, there. So now that's a value that I'll be looking for, and any of these synonyms will trigger that value. And I can add more. So I can add France. So I don't really have another way of expressing France. So we'll just save that. And now we have a list of supported countries. Now what you need to do is you need to extract one of these values out of the user's messages. So you would have an intent. An intent is what understands the user's messages and lets you act on that data. And you can see here I have an intent called get country. That's because I'm asking the user here, what country are you in? They are going to send a message telling me what country they're in. The message is going to get sent through a dynamic card, through which dynamic default reply, which has a dynamic step. That's you would have a default reply with this, and you would make a request to Dialogflow. So I'm just going to not touch that for now. And then when the user's message hits Dialogflow, it's going to trigger what's called as an intent, so you can understand the intent of the user. So here's one called Get Country that I created, and you can see here that if the user says they're in Canada, it's going to trigger this entity, this supported country entity, because that's a value that is on my supported country list. And it creates a parameter name called supported country. Now, let's say I add a country that is not on my list of supported countries. So let's say it's Spain. And you only need to do this once. I've already added India, but I'm just showing you that when you add a country that is not on your list of supported countries, it triggers a different entity. It'll actually trigger this geo country, which is like a built-in entity from Dialogflow that understands every country in the world. So if it's not on our supported list, it's going to trigger this entity. And then I just renamed I can rename the parameter name to unsupported country. It'll put a parameter name that called geo country, but I renamed it unsupported country just so it matches up with supported country. I have supported countries and I have unsupported countries. And you can add phrases like, currently I'm living in China. And you can see that it triggered this geo country. I'm visiting Canada. And that's a value that's on our supported country list. So the parameter name is important because the parameter name, if it matches our custom user field name. So I have two custom user fields right here, supported country and unsupported country. They're both text types. And if the parameter name matches the custom user field, then the value that we get from the user's message will automatically be stored in Manychat. And what we can do is we'll trigger a response to this message, to these messages. And here you can see them here. These are our parameters. Same thing as custom user fields. And if they match the value that you get, will automatically in real time be stored in Manychat. And then you can create that conditional flow. And then you'll respond. And so what I've done here is I've added a very small piece of JSON code. It's called a custom payload response, and it just basically it's a flow. It's going to respond with our flow. So this is an ID that you can get right out of the URL from your flow in your Manychat dashboard. And so when users hit this intent, it's going to respond with that flow. And so we can look at that flow. This is it here. And you can see here, the first step is, does supported country have any value? So we don't even have to, you could create conditions that looks for, particular countries and create different, use case scenarios. But we're just looking to see if the user has indicated that they are in a country that is on our supported country list. And if they are, we tag them, and then we can personalize the experience using this tag. And if they're not, we can just tag them a different way, that they're unsupported, and give them a different message. So it's one way to ask the user what country they're in, so you can determine if you support them without changing your page level settings in Facebook, or without using some kind of button and awkward web view where they're going to scroll through a list. I mean, it's just ask them what country they're in, and get them to send a message, and then you can personalize the whole experience that way.